So once in a while in our lives, there are those people that really they're our heroes, right? And they might be real people in our lives. They might be people that we see, real people that we see out in the world. They might even just be, made up people, people we've read about in books or seen on shows and in movies. For me, one of the people that I would call my biggest hero is actually my sister, Leigh. And I had a chance just the other day to be sitting down at coffee with her, and I talked her into joining me on the podcast. So today, I really just want to introduce you to why she's so important to me, what the big deal is for me as far as this person, but you're going to get some of her really wonderful wisdom as well, which is really what I wanted this podcast to be about. So she's my big sister, but I wanted to kind of lend my hero big sister to you. So keep listening.
I know your deep, dark secret. You don't like your life. You're a woman in midlife, and for the past 2 decades or more, you've poured yourself in to other people. You've poured yourself into your career, your family, and yet on the inside, you feel broken. And that's no way to be. I'm Dr. Natalie Marr. I'm a clinical psychologist and a life transition expert. It wasn't too long ago that I was in your shoes, waking up in my early 40s, thinking I've got 2 failed marriages, and I'm a single mom for the second time in my life. And I just knew that I could do better, that I could feel better. Fortunately for you, I have about 20 years experience clinically. And so I've created a method that will help you learn to love your story. I know that the story that you're telling yourself about your life feels awful. And I know that you think that you can't change that. I assure you, you can. And when we work together, I'm going to help you to craft a different story, a story that you love, a story that makes you want to get up every single day. Let's work together to help you love your story.
Do you have any thoughts on what you want to talk about today?
No, I'll just follow your lead. You talk. I'll make jokes and we'll make it fun.
Well, okay. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. I have a real treat for us today. So today I have invited my big sister on the podcast, and I have talked about my big sister on the podcast before. I don't know that she actually listens. I know she's going to not be happy that I've said big sister twice, but she will try to tell you that she's younger than me. Not the case. Not the case. It's actually my birthday today when we're recording this. And so I think I kind of guilted her into doing something way outside her comfort zone by coming online here with me. So we can't really decide what we want to talk about either. So we'll see where this goes. Where the wind blows us, I guess, today is kind of where we're going to go. Just so you know, Leigh, when I've had conversations or, recorded stuff on the podcast and shared about you, it's usually about what amazing woman you are, because you've saved my butt more times than I can count, probably more times than both of us can count. So definitely people love you on this podcast. So don't worry. Don't worry. One of the
people already like me.
I know, right? It's already here. They're already here. One thing though that I mean, you could share with my listeners, like, what's your perspective of the crazy that happened to me 5 years ago? Because that kind of is what spearheaded, learntoloveyourstory.com, my second divorce, that second separation. And you were clearly a savior throughout that process. And you and I were having coffee actually last week, which is what kind of got me really wanting to do this conversation on a podcast. Like, some of the insights you've had have been invaluable to me about how growing up in our alcoholic family is a big reason why I found myself in the spaces that I found myself 5 years ago, and have had to really dig into my own personal work to to just draw a line in the sand and not do that anymore, not do some of the things that I was participating in my own suffering. So, I mean, if you have any thoughts on that, you can certainly share.
Sure, I got some thoughts. Well, first of all, you refer to it as this, crazy disaster in your life. And I don't like to look at anything that way. I mean, nobody got anything right by not getting something wrong first. So, I mean, everything that we have in our life that goes, kind of crazy, we learn from it, we grow from it, and we become a better person. I mean, I do a lot of woodworking, you know that, and the first thing you learn with woodworking is that anytime you have a break or a cut in something and you reattach it with glue and whatever, it's a stronger joint than even the natural, grain of the wood to begin with. So again, we all grow and learn and get better and do something better. I mean, we all have challenges like that in our life. Facing one right now with the changing of my job, but I know what I'm learning and doing is going to make me stronger. It's going to let me know my story better. I mean, just, after 12 years of working at one company and having to do a resume, I've learned my worth again, because, who sits down and thinks about all the stuff that, that you've done until somebody forces you to do it. So first of all, I don't really look at it that way. Second of all, I think, if you talk about our alcoholic family, we had troubles and I think everybody does in their family, and whether they admit it or not. But we had a very close-knit family. And because of that, and all the different things that we've gone through, and that didn't mean that like all of us, seven of us always agreed to the same thing at the same time. I mean, there were pods, we got along, and you get along really well with Jack, and then now I'm getting along with Jack. But I mean, again, like there's pods that of things, but we were still very close. But that taught you to trust, and sometimes blind trust, especially people that you love. And I think that's what got you seriously in trouble, because the rest of us were looking at that like, oh, what's going on? And why is she doing that?
Yeah, I get what you're saying there. I mean, it's gift and a curse, right? Like I do trust blindly, and I've always chosen a small group of people to be close to, and I don't have like lots of friendships or lots of relationships. In particular, because I think it's easier to control for that when you have a smaller group of people. But most of my relationships, once I've let you in, there's a lot of implicit trust that I give.
But not on in making a comparison with me and this thing with losing my, leaving my job and such. I mean, and I took like a step down last year, as you know, from my, higher level position. And again, I loved the company I was working for. And when the VP, said, hey, this is what we think is going to be best for the company, is to bring in this senior level position. And we need to have a growth pattern for people below you. So that, if we step you down, then you have a growth step up, which was the position I was holding, you know what I mean? So like, but at the time it made sense. It's like, okay, if I do this, then I see where I've got this pattern, and it gives this guy, this new person a position to be. But like all good bamboozles, if you will, I mean, it's not really a lie. I mean, it's true. So I can't say that it's, it's a good lie. It's just it's a way of restructuring it to make you feel like, oh yeah, this is a good option for me. This is going to give me this. And then, when 25 other, job tasks come at you and you're like, oh my God, I'm so busy, I can't, see my family. You're like, oh no, this is good for me though, because I have this pattern and I have this growth that I can do. And if I show that I can do this and I take on all this extra work, then I'm going to really stand out and be amazing. So those are all things that, you take on. Now that's in my job. But the same thing happens in a relationship, like, hey, honey, the best thing for us
Right.
to do right now is to buy this and then do this, this, and this, because this is what's going to help us, build our credit, or, get to where we want to be in life, or do
Yeah.
whatever. And when you're in the middle of it and you're trusting all the people around you, and you have this happy picture, my happy picture was how much I love the company I was working for. So when you have all that, you're in a great spot for that infection to grow.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what you're in.
Yeah.
So that
This
that
is
is
so
where
funny.
that is where you were at. And maybe some of us on the outside
Yeah.
thought, well, what's going on? But nobody saw all of it. Nobody could see the whole picture.
No.
You were the only person in a position to see the whole picture, and you had trust, and you had love in the relationship, and you had obligations, and all of us
Yep.
have short on time. So we think, well, what's the most time efficient way for me to get through this? I'll just say yes, or I'll just do this, or
Yeah.
I'll go this way. So, again, those are all things that you did, and it just made it it led up to what it led up to. But
It led up to what it did. But you've dropped some really, like, I loved your metaphor for the wood, though. Like, you've dropped some really great knowledge. Like, nothing failed, nothing gained, right? Like, it was a
Right.
huge learning opportunity for me as well, to seal up kind of one of the final part. I mean, it's not like I'm a therapist myself, so it's not like I hadn't been in therapy or hadn't talked through some of those things. I've been in therapy with my second husband. So it isn't that I wasn't aware of my trust and those kinds of things, but I think where I have really grown in the last 5 years, I would say, is in my dedication to stop self-betraying, because that was the pattern that really got me. Like, I believed some of it I didn't believe, but I kind of left time for, well, it'll get better, we'll figure it out at some point. And that was a self-betrayal, and I won't do that. Certainly not wittingly. I probably still do it unwittingly, as we all do, but I think that was really one of the things I saw, and what I learned as I've because I'm a nerd. And so then I look into the research. What I've learned as I've looked into midlife women, Gen X women in particular, is that we do have a tendency to do that, because it's a glorified selfless thing to do, is to kind of like put, like, something about this doesn't feel right for me, but I'll put that aside because the better good is this, right, on this side. And I think the bamboozled word that you used is a good one, because I do think we got bamboozled. I think culturally and socially, what has played out with that is it gets manipulated. It gets manipulated in the workplace. It gets manipulated in relationships. And thank you for sharing about your recent experience. I mean, you even changed language as you were talking about it. I lost a job. I mean, I left a job, because it is so weird. The way they stacked it all against you, you just eventually had to choose you if you were going to not be miserable. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and again, I don't think I don't want to say that, because it's not that I was miserable. I really enjoy what I do. It was knowing my story. It was seeing my own self-worth. And and I could see, even in the new people that they brought in, that there was that they were growing themselves by changing jobs and doing all that. And I had a little of that old school feel of, hang on to the job you have for as long as you possibly can. Maybe that is something I grabbed from our parents or whatever, who did pretty much the same thing, their whole life. But
totally.
Again, not to discount it, I loved the people I worked with. I mean, the people that worked for me, and the people I worked, throughout the whole company with. I loved the work, and I loved the brand, and what what it was, who it was, and how it it included everybody, and what it did, the health benefits, the whole bit. I mean, there was everything about that I liked. And so again, my decision to move on was that the next step was another step back, and and maybe again, had I, wanted to listen to the story more, it could have been explained to me as to how this was improving everything. But,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes you just have to stand up and say, no, I got to do my own work. I mean, I know that I could do that. And again, sitting down and writing a resume is something we should all do. Maybe even a resume of our, of our other parts of our lives. You know what I mean? That was just my work
Right.
history, what I could do and what I know. But, sitting down and like thinking of target words that describe me, you know what I mean? And having to, write that
Yes.
down and then talk about different, things that I can do. You know what I mean? Like, I've done international project management because I've managed projects in Canada. You know what I mean? Where, a mother
Mhm.
might be able to say, I've done, you know, I've done
Yep.
a part-time job, taking care of a kid and, whatever. You know what I mean? Like there are different parts of
Yeah.
your life that you forget that that's a skill. Like not everybody is going to be
Like
able to do all of
legit.
that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, my kid has
I
clean
mean,
underwear every day. That's a, you know, I mean, we
I'm
take it for
amazing.
granted, like that. Of course, why wouldn't they? I mean, but it is something that you're providing, that you're doing, and you're making it happen. And I
Yeah.
think I heard you say, and I didn't want to cut you off, but I think I heard you say something about how, in females that we take that on, but don't discount that everything we're talking about also applies to males because males can be just as
Oh yeah.
bamboozled. They can, they have a, whatever their dream, their thought process is, and I think even if you looked healthily, that's a word, back at your relationship,
Yes.
you would see that there were things that he believed in. So, some of what he was selling you, he
Mhm.
was being sold, and he believed that would happen. And
Oh
some of the
yeah.
stuff he did was because he realized faster than you that what was being sold was not going to happen, and he was trying to, cut and cover, and
Yeah.
that's again not something that it happened on that side, so you want to like say, well, that's just wrong, or he did that on purpose or whatever. But I don't know if that's always the case.
Mhm.
I think there's a healthy relationship to both sides of it. Again,
Oh, totally. Totally. And
once it gets to
I
an unhealthy
also
spot where you're hating each other, then all bets are off as to whether or not anybody's doing it the right way. But so
the right way. No, and I mean, I've co-parented for now for 20 years, 21 I guess, if you think that your child starts at 0, with another, my first ex-husband. And so I have a very specific way that I show up in a divorced family as well. It's really important to me to kind of still look at the good side of things, right? It's
yeah,
not like that. And I hopefully am not such a poor judge of character that there wasn't some things that I was invited into that relationship originally with. And I agree. I think that he also believed some of the things, and he just had a different vantage point to see that when it was crumbling faster than I did. But it's important to me not to, actually, what I would say is this: what's important to me with learntoloveyourstory.com is to get away from some of that, what I would describe in psychology as blame shifting, because it's a useless task. It really is a useless task of sitting in your misery. So for your example of your experience, you could be way more focused on the people who were bamboozling you and being mad about that, instead of seeing, the opportunity of, I just got to sit down and look at how amazing I am. My resume is actually pretty awesome when you think
yeah,
about it. And there's those other parts that I didn't even put in there, and I did all of this and my kid had clean underwear every day,
yeah,
that also are true and
yeah,
contribute to, my confidence in myself. I'm going to be able to handle this and be able to pivot at this stage in my life. It's really important to me to help women. So my podcast is focused on midlife women. That's not that I don't think these things happen to men, but my passion is to help women see their part in it, because that's where their power is. You can't switch what you've done that hasn't worked for you up until this point, unless you're looking at the pieces of it that you participated in your suffering and then pivoting and creating new empowered decisions that better serve you. So for me, it's always been about, were there things on both sides in my last marriage? Absolutely. And it was a complete surprise to me when it blew up in the fashion that it did. Maybe not to other people in my life, but it was still to me. And that was what I wanted to zone in on, is like, I never want to be in a position where I feel that caught off guard, and where other people had different narratives about me through the dissolution of that marriage, that I was like, who are you talking about? What do you mean I didn't know that? And I didn't know this. And I seemed like, just somebody that's very naive, which it's not in alignment with who I really am.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of like draw that line in the sand and learn how I got myself there, and then teach myself how to get out of it. And now I want to teach other people similarly. And I don't think it's just divorces. I think that midlife, it throws these really significant life transitions at us, and we're going to have to figure our ways out of it. And what we're noticing is we don't have as many margins anymore. Like, there's just not a lot of extra energy to put towards anything.
Yeah.
And B, like, a lot of the stuff that we've done until this point is just not going to cut it. It's kind of what got us there. So I want to help people kind of have that self-awareness of how to pivot through that. Mm-hmm.
No, I agree. There's a quote I have on my, it's a hand, whatever, I wrote it. It's from a movie. Because so many things I do are from movies. I'm a movie lover. Anyway,
I know you love movies.
It's a great one that I look at it quite often. So I actually have it written down, and I, on a piece of paper on my desk, because it reminds me of how much I'm in control of all my situations. Anyways, it says, a person doesn't drown because they fall into the water. They drown because they stay submerged in it. And for me,
interesting.
It just it reminds me that, like, when I'm feeling, that anger or that whatever, I'm staying submerged in the situation. I'm in that, there's no sense in drowning myself in that. Like, if I really feel like I'm drowning because of that, it's because I've overwhelmed myself with all these things and I'm staying that way. So what can I cut? What can I move? What can I get forward? And it's just something I go back and I look at it. I looked at it even when, I was, I don't know, whatever, multiple times. I feel like I've gone back to that to just remind myself that,
yeah,
I got to get myself stepped out of this. And sometimes, it's a big step. Sometimes it's just, I'm drowning at work and what's going on and why do I feel like I can't get up in the morning because I've lost that, I love my job feel, and it's more like, oh my God, I have to go to work and I got to get this stuff done. And that's me drowning in it. And I have to find, how can I separate it out? And sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's like, no, you can't. But if I'm aware of it, at least I can start to find, spots where I can make changes to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is it about you that's similar to the wood grain metaphor that you shared with us? Like, what do you think it is that taught you that kind of a resiliency? Because that's really what I would describe that as. It's like, yeah, when I'm in the hot water or the deep water, I'm going to be looking at what my life rafts are, not at, concentrating on how much I'm drowning in that moment, because that's not helpful. I mean, how did you come about those kind of resiliency skills, would you say?
I don't know. I mean, I certainly have had my share of in my young life of, things that went totally horribly wrong. And again, that changed a lot of things in my life, going forward and whatever. But I feel like part of it is it's a mental decision. And some of it maybe was with our parents, that we just were recently talking about some of our dadisms, if you will, about how he liked to
Yes.
control things. And even if, like, to go back to the plane ticket example, even if we bought the plane
I know.
ticket at a good price to go from here to there, he still had to jump in, and he'd be all mad that we didn't talk to him about it. And he didn't get a chance to look for,
Yeah.
12 different other companies. Not that we can't do it, but that, he would need to do it. So, I don't know. Like, we've definitely had some things like that have caused some challenges. And I think, not without saying, raising a special needs child like I do also
For
changes your
sure.
perspective on a lot of things about what you can and can't do. But yeah, like I'm not a word person. I don't like to have words all over everything, in my house. My wife fucking, oh, sorry. My wife hates words all over the place.
I know.
Um,
They love to make fun of me relentlessly. Yes, indeed.
so I don't do that, but I have a ton of them that I have a little book from that I carry or used to carry around all the time that's got a ton of them in there that help me to recognize things. But some of my favorite are lead from where you're at. Start right now making the difference.
Right.
If you can be a difference and make a difference and afford to make that difference, then just do it. And be the change that you want to see. You know what I mean? Like, those are important things
Yes.
to do. When I left my job, that I was there for a long time, and there was some bitterness and real hurt inside me.
Mhm.
I never stopped working to the last day. I said, I closed my computer down. Like, I was answering, literally, my day ended at 5 o'clock that day, and at 4:30, a couple of the ladies that handle some of our financial stuff, because I did a lot of the financial stuff with the construction, are contacting me. And like, hey, where's all this marketing money? Where's this going on? And I'm pulling it up and checking it and following it. And I completed construction of a store literally after I put my notice in that this was going to be my day, and I stayed to the end, and I worked to the
Yeah.
end, and I led my team to the end. And it doesn't matter to any of them. Maybe none of them even noticed it. Maybe all of them noticed it. I don't. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that I left without any kind of remorse in my head. Like, I should have done this, or
Yeah.
I should have done that. You know what I mean? And sitting around and yelling at a bunch of people, or bitching with my team that would certainly listen to me, if I wanted to bitch about everything, um, it would have done no good. It would have just left them with
Yeah.
more anger. And even now we still talk. I mean, like, I've been gone for a month now, and I probably talk to the team at least once a week, in different ways, not all
Hmm.
together at the same time, but they all call me and they all talk to me, and because they respect me. One of them, speaking
Yeah.
of things, one of them gave me this little thing called a difference maker.
Difference maker.
Anyways, if you don't know what a difference maker is, again, I'm telling you, I don't have words all over, and then I have this little thing on my desk.
I know.
Anyways,
She has secret words.
a difference maker is a dedicated person who can make a big impact even with just a small action or a few words. Someone who improves the lives of others, and one who rallies or encourages others to propel themselves forward and bring about change. So,
Yeah.
if
And
I
that
borrow
definitely
you
describes
some
you.
money, or if I give you a place to live for a couple weeks, I mean, that's me trying to be a difference maker in any way I can to help you propel you forward. There we go. Now we're full circle back to how you got through it and
Yeah.
how I helped you. But again,
How you
it
got,
doesn't have to be
well,
about me.
yeah.
But obviously, you see where that is, and that's great. That's great that you
Hmm.
care and respect that I did that for you. But that's just doing the next right thing. That's all I can do, is the next.
That's just doing the next right thing. Hmm.
And moving forward.
Listen, you've dropped all the wisdom that I drop all the time and have coined for myself. But I think I forget how much it is the soup that we swam in and still do. I mean, like not that. So there's 5 siblings, 2 parents in our family system, and it like not all. I don't know. The 5 of us you wouldn't necessarily put in the same room together, but there are a lot of things that we have in common. And I forget, just listening to you talk, I'm like, oh yeah. I say the next right thing all the time. Talk about that concept all the time because I mean, it's also from AA. So that
Yeah.
probably, both of us got familiar with it somehow that way, but it is such a powerful strategy to anchor back to your own values. And
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful, well, you really just described like working until the very last minute at your job, doing all the things, not sloughing off for a few weeks after you put in notice, but actually doing all the things. I think it's such a beautiful description of that's a form of self-care for you because it's in alignment with who you are as a person and it's important to you to show up as the best version of yourself. For somebody who does that, kind of in pursuit selflessly to get kind of codependently fed, that's not, then it's devastating. Then you're just like giving and giving and giving and never replenishing yourself. And so I just want to name that because I think that sometimes we've in pop culture got these ideas around, oh yeah, well, if you're telling me to, do self-care and put myself first, Dr. Natalie, then you must just be like forgetting that I have all these people and all these responsibilities and like I don't have a life where I get to do that. Well, guess what? No, neither do I. Like seriously, neither does anybody. And nor would I ever teach a woman in midlife, I want you to put yourself first and kind of just forget everybody else. That's not what I talk about. What I talk about is I want you to come at it way different than you always have. If you want to put in till the very last minute in a job that you're, stepping away from and going to the next thing in your life because it makes you feel good as a person, do it. That is an amazing kind of self-care, but don't do it if you're doing it because it's kind of how you're hustling for worth till the very end to see if somebody will finally notice and see your value. That is devastating for most anybody that goes down that kind of a pathway. So it's just a really beautiful example of that, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
I mean, just talking about showing up and that self-care thing. I mean, again, tying back maybe into our AA background of our family. But still, every plane you get on, the first thing they talk about, as they're giving you all your instructions is that if the air mask comes down, put it on yourself first and then help others. Because you can't help anybody else if you don't help yourself. And that is truly a metaphor for life. Like if you're struggling,
Yeah,
if you're
totally.
drowning, and you're still trying to give everything you can to everybody else, then you're going to drown. You are going to, something's going to happen, and you're going to make yourself sick doing it. You're going to get so depressed or so, whatever, that's a thing that's going to, whatever. I mean, there are all those things that are going to happen, and you think that it's a time thing, like, oh my God, I can't take care of me. I got to take care of all this other stuff. But shoot, you find that extra 30 minutes to get up and sit down and have a coffee and write, out your day, or what you hated about yesterday, or whatever it is, to kind of recenter your brain. That's something that improves you. If you can, what, there are a million different things. If you find a way to get that little workout in, or you find the way to just take your animal for a walk, if that's what it takes, to just step away
Get
from
an
it.
Oleato at Starbucks.
Yeah. Exactly. But those little tiny things that you do just for you are crucial to having the strength and energy to keep putting forward. And if you don't have them, then you definitely are going to get angry. You get angry. And also there's a
Resentful.
limit to giving. There's also a limit, like, if you're, I found that even more right now while I'm not working, first time ever, in 12 years having an entire month off from work, and here I am, oh, I'll take my son to and from, college every day because he doesn't drive. And so I'll take care of that. And then I'll take care of getting the groceries and I'll make the dinner and I'll do this. But by the way, I also have like 5 tasks I want to do around the house. So I'm going to put in this cabinet we haven't had and take care of some of these honeydew list items that we have. And then I find like, by Thursday, that's my Monday plan. By Thursday, I'm angry a little bit about the fact that no one else is taking care of the dishes. Nobody else is taking care of, making the dinner or whatever. They're just expecting it's going to be done. And I'm not a housewife. I'm the breadwinner of this family. You know what I mean? I'm the one that's bringing in the money. I mean, so it's really easy to get angry, a little bit in your head, and then I have to step back. I'm like, wait a minute. I gave myself all those tasks. Like nobody said, "Hey Leigh, while you're not working, will you make dinner every night? Will you take Nikolai to and from work? Because he can get a car. I mean, his financial supplements, because he is disabled, we'll pay for a vehicle so we can take care of that. But no, you took all this on, and then you want to get a little angry about it. So sometimes I have to, eat in silence and then realize that I need to apologize to a couple people since they came home, my wife and whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you're adjusting. Like you said, you haven't not worked for that long forever. So it's, it's an adjustment to, I think I know you are much like myself, which definitely comes from our family of origin. We love working. Working makes us feel kind of settled and normal. And so in the absence of something to be doing, we find other things to do. But if we do too much of that, our margins are not there. So you get irritable and, but that's part of you. It's not because you fell in the water. It's because you're participating in,
I'm
drowning at that point. Yep. Like figure out your way to get out of it. That's nobody did that to you, but you. Yeah. So figure that out. Yeah.
I mean, and it started with, before I even left the job, saying to my wife, can I take the month off? Like, is that gonna, will we suffer if I take, 1 month off? We've got vacation at the beginning of March. Could I, can I squeeze this in and take basically 5 weeks off without getting myself crazy and looking for interviews and all that kind of stuff? Can I do this? And like, I was surprised by her response of whatever you need. You know what I mean? Like, if this is something you need, you're right.
Yeah.
You have been working for 12 years nonstop, and you have been, working some 60, 70, sometimes 80-hour weeks because of the workload that's being thrown at you. Like where you come up and you eat dinner and then you go back and you'll work till like, midnight trying to get through emails because your entire day is covered in meeting to meeting to meeting. So love corporate America sometimes. But and so it was a healthy thing. So yeah, absolutely. And then my decision to take on this other stuff was again my decision to take on that other stuff, like you said, filling the void and trying to make everybody feel like, well, you're not, I'm not just sitting around watching Hallmark movies all day long, which I could do.
You could do. That was part of how you guys healed me when I lived at your house for that little bit of time. There was a lot of Hallmark movies. But, a lot of laughter. My sister is the best at making all of us laugh.
Then I channeled that to something else and
Bam.
So
we got to have coffee one morning, which was or breakfast. That was super fun. It's a matter of adjustment though, because I don't have another person in the house to ask, is it okay if I stop working as much? But I stopped working as much in 2023, mostly to make time for learntoloveyourstory.com. So it's not like I'm not working, but I'm not being paid for a lot of the work that I'm doing because I'm building up this side of things. And it's been an adjustment, like being able to do that on a Thursday morning. I still struggle sometimes with my own programming and conditioning about, should I be doing this or should I be doing something that's like more productive? then lunch or breakfast or something like that with a friend or a colleague. And I still struggle with that stuff. But I knew going into 2023 that I was going to have to give myself some grace with that because it was going to feel different what I was doing for work. But I do, like the podcast editing and stuff, I do all of that usually on the weekends before I even get into my regular work week. I don't know about you, but my brain, I don't know how you do emails at night because my brain kind of shuts off at some point. I do some grading at night. But I know that subject matter so well that, I probably could do it sleeping. Shouldn't do it sleeping, but I probably could do it sleeping. But man, creativity wise or production wise, my after dinner, I've got nothing left these days.
Yeah.
Has to be light outside for me to be thinking in creative mode. Well, I didn't ask you my first question that I ask on I can't believe I forgot this, but my first question is tell us your story, but you kind of have throughout the time. One of the questions though I usually end with is if there was somebody in midlife, friend, whatever, one of my listeners that's kind of in one of these stuck points, and doesn't know what to do, what's the advice that you usually give people in that space? Like what's their next right thing, do you think?
Well, that's again, it's always per person and what's going on in their life. But I think we've discussed some of the main things. First, what do you need? What do I need? When I'm stuck, first it is knowing yourself and figuring out what it is that you need to do to get feel better. If that's canceling everything for 2 days because you need 48 hours of sleep, then get 48 hours of sleep so that you can go to that thing.
Yeah.
And don't discount the lack of sugar in your body. Don't get me wrong, I do a lot of sugar, so I'm not saying that, but again, there are also other things, reduction of caffeine and those kind of things that sometimes help to make us sluggish. And we think that they're propelling us to give us that energy, but sometimes just a detoxification of that kind of stuff can give you another lift of energy and help you to feel more productive and more that there's things to do. I also sometimes just need at least one clean space. You know what I mean? I can be a bit of a slob, and my family is a bit of pack rats. Seriously, my son's of an age that all stuffed animals should be put away, and yet he still insists that there's at least 8 of them that he has to have in his room. Anyways, but the point is, sometimes when I get to that low point, I just need a clean space. First thing I did when I left my job was I remodeled my office. I needed a new.
I know. I love the wallpaper. Love the wallpaper behind you.
Looks like
it's so cool.
Wall, but it's wallpaper. And
awesome.
But changing the paint, changing the wallpaper, changing some of those kind of things, it gives you a new fresh feel when you walk into the room, and then you re-owned your space. You know what I mean? Sometimes just having too many dishes sitting on the countertop because I haven't run the dishwasher in a couple of days, or whatever it is, a clean space, clean head, sleep. Those are sometimes the essentials to get myself ready to move. And then it's, what's the next thing? Again, sometimes you have to say it out loud. What is the next right thing? You know what I mean? But what is the next thing that I can do that I haven't done that could start to make a difference? And a lot of it starts with you starting to feel healthy in your head. That's exercise, that's food, that's talking to family members or whoever, can make you feel good about yourself, whoever you can laugh with. I'm sarcastic as heck, but sometimes if I get out there and get somebody to laugh with me, at me, whatever, it makes a difference, just to help me clear my head of some of the stuff that, the negative talk in your head.
Yeah.
I'll say this, when I left that company, and again, I did work there for 12 years, so it was a long time, but the amount of people who showed up for this 30-minute little farewell thing to say, and I mean, some of them were crying because I was leaving, and these are
Oh.
not people that I worked with on a daily basis. And even they put up there's a kudos board. It's a website thing that you can go to. Anyways, they did one of those things for me, and what people put in there was like, oh my God, I had no idea I had touched and impacted so many lives. I mean, and that's something
Yeah.
to really help give you a good kick in the pants that, you do matter and you do,
Totally.
impact people, not just your sister.
Yeah.
Which is easy
Exactly.
to say. I'm just taking care of my family, but no, I am not. I'm helping other people. I'm helping other people grow and making that difference. And I also
Hmm.
coach some Special Olympic stuff, which again is a way to give back all the stuff that my sons received from that amazing organization, um,
Yes.
and those kids' faces and such. So interestingly, yesterday
I
I was
know.
at a Dick's Sporting Goods to buy something for my son, and I had on the 2026, I think is what the next Olympics is, USA Olympics
Yep.
for
Yep.
Olympics, and it's actually going to be here in Minnesota, so that it whatever. So they had released
That's
the
so
new
cool.
logo. The last one was in Florida. That was what we went to in 2022.
Yeah.
Anyways, 2026, 4 years later, it's going to be here in Minnesota, and so here I was at Dick's, and I have this logo on my shirt because we were part of the logo release party. Anyways, and the lady behind the counter is like, "Oh my God, are you going to go?" And I'm like, "What are we talking about?" Like we're in the middle of a conversation, and I have no idea. I don't even know who you are. And she's like, "I see your shirt." I said, "She's like, are you going to volunteer there at the 2026 Olympics?" I said, "Well, I don't know if I'm going to volunteer yet. I mean, I'd love to be coaching something, but my son's a big part of it, and that's why I have the thing." And she's like, "Oh my God, I love it so much." And I had been in the one that that they had like whatever 16 years ago or so was here. Maybe it was longer, I can't remember. And she's like, "I'm really hoping that I can be like, like a dorm something or other." I've actually learned, she said, how to say thank you and hello in like 16 different languages, because so many different groups. And I mean,
So cool.
like, I mean, she's bettering herself, and she's excited about being able to volunteer and help, these athletes. And so again, that's,
Yes.
that's something to get up with and whatever.
Hmm. Thank you, though. It's such a beautiful sentiment that you're really talking about. If you're stuck, take care of you first. Like, just go in, and that'll look different no matter who we are. But if you're not cared for, it would be almost impossible to figure out what that next right step is anyway, to be
Yeah.
honest. I think, when you're in a downward spiral, you're likely to be grasping at straws that are not good for you either. So that's a really significant first step, is to make sure you're cared for, even like your body is cared for. Like,
Yeah.
watch what you're eating, make sure you're sleeping, that kind of thing. Like, that's huge. Definitely.
It is.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you again for being on. I know that you were like, what? And you have to do video? You want video of me? I'm like, yeah, I do both. We have one, YouTube optimizes their podcast. So one of my channels is on YouTube, but then I'm on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and I don't know, a whole handful of others that Spotify will go out to. So yeah, but I appreciate you on so many levels, Leigh. You have no idea what a significant person you are in my life. And I don't say that enough. I
And
love
you in
you to
mine.
pieces, but thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And happy birthday.
So I really appreciate your being on. Thank you. I'm excited. I'm excited. I actually have already had like 4 or 5 texts this morning. It's a good year. Huh?
I said, and I'm excited for my older sister.
You knew it was coming. At some point, she was going to say it. And I am not her older sister.
Not my oldest.
But that's okay. we're both within, range. At this point, I don't know, you add years, but it all feels the same. The bodies are not keeping up with the minds. I don't like that part of this age range, but when my body starts to do things and I'm like, what? Like I used to just do all of this. Why are we
Yeah.
going kaput? That makes
Yeah.
no sense.
Like walking downstairs.
But I guess it does. Yeah. It's troublesome. Just so you know, your niece, my daughter, made me breakfast this morning and
Oh,
walked it
wow.
all the way upstairs with a little hot tea. She was so proud of herself. It was the cutest
Wow.
thing ever.
Awesome.
So it's been a wonderful birthday, and it's only 10 o'clock. I'm so excited.
I know. Balloons and everything.
I know. Awesome. Well,
All right.
thank you, Leigh. And
Thanks.
thank you, listeners, for letting me indulge myself by having my sister on my own podcast. I mean, what's the use of having your own podcast if you can't? And just know, like, wherever you are, you can lead from there. She's given us some really great tidbits of wisdom.
Yeah,
you can see
exactly.
why I love her so much. So make sure that you're stepping into your centered life thriving.
Because I am a licensed clinical psychologist in the state of Minnesota, I have to make sure at the end of each of these episodes that I give you the disclaimer that none of the material that I talk about in these podcasts is meant to replace any kind of therapy or formal medical or mental health treatment. And in fact, anything that I offer on my website, my coaching programs, any kind of psychoeducational materials that I release are not a replacement for that level of care. So just take that into account when you listen. This is information for you, and hopefully you find it of value, both as an educational tool and for your entertainment. And I also want to mention that if anyone you know is in a mental health crisis, needs additional help, I always include these two crisis resources. They're available to anybody. Pick up the phone and dial 988 for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And you can always visit their website at suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Additionally, there's actually a crisis text line. So if you're not somebody that likes to pick up the phone, text HOME, home, to 741-741 to the crisis text line. And you can find them online at crisistextline.org. Thank you for listening to my podcast. And I hope that you like and follow me wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe consider leaving me a review. It always helps me to keep this podcast relevant when I know what you want to hear about.